laying down on these just UVA lamps, just burning your skin. UVA will age your skin, but it also is a direct carcinogen. Like it's one of our things, it's literally categorized as a carcinogen, meaning it will cause cancer. So no, a
Yes.
hard no on that
Yes.
one.
Definitely not. Definitely not. Welcome to the More Than a Pretty Face podcast, where we go more than just skin deep to explore the science of beauty so you can look and feel your best at any age. I'm so excited about today's episode because we are doing a deep dive into the fascinating world of dermatology, technology, and healthcare innovation, specifically the power of generative AI in dermatology. We're going to be learning about DermGPT. That's right, not ChatGPT, because we all know what that is, but we're specifically going to be talking about a new AI powered tool for improving clinic productivity in dermatology called DermGPT. And today I have the privilege of hosting the founder of DermGPT, Dr. Faranak Kamangar, who is a dermatologist who's done research in psoriasis, and she has an engineering background as well. She leads PSO telehealth. She focuses on psoriasis, but she also practices dermatology at Sutter Health in the Bay Area. She is the department chair with Palo Alto Medical Foundation. Since its launched, DermGPT has grown and expects continuous growth in the coming year. I'm so excited to welcome Dr. Kamangar. How are you?
Great. Thank you so much for having me here, Dr. Ozzy. I love your podcast. I love everything you always
Oh,
say. So it's
awesome.
so fun to be here. This is
Oh,
fantastic.
I'm so excited to talk to you because I'm always talking about this. We have a telehealth platform as well. And I know I've talked to other entrepreneurs about how dermatology is really a great specialty for this sort of AI technology because we're so visual. Everything
Yeah.
is so pattern recognition, and a lot of our conditions and diseases are have a specific pattern to it. So it only makes sense that the two would merge. And so tell us a little bit about your background.
Yeah, absolutely. So, of course, I'm a board certified dermatologist, but I also have a background in engineering and hence all the health tech type of work that I do. So, I've been in health tech for a really long time, but before it was actually cool. But now I think health tech is getting its time with telehealth, all the different platforms. AI tools, it's really fun. I give a lecture to residents sometimes going through healthcare like 1.0 to healthcare 5.0 where we are now. Healthcare 1.0 being like paper charts where we used to be. Although some
Mm-hmm.
offices will still do
Yes.
that, and they're actually really efficient
Yes.
offices. Nothing wrong with that. And then to like healthcare 3.0 where social media came out and patients started getting their information more there than in the office. And then I think as
Mm-hmm.
physicians, we didn't know what to do with that. You did. You're doing an amazing job. Like, but you're the minority of docs who are just doing an amazing job at that and educating where our patients are. The rest of us, we know the patients are there, but we're not quite showing up in that space. So,
It's amazing what you can get out of a 30-second, video on social media, given that it's, you know, presented by somebody who is an expert, or is a board certified dermatologist. Because I got into this space because there are a lot of people, influencers, and people that are out there putting out misinformation. So I feel like as physicians, it is our duty, our public duty, to make sure that we
yeah,
are also in the space and that we are presenting valuable information that's science backed and legitimate, real information, because we are the ones that see patients that
yeah,
have the experience. So, before we get into today's episode, though, if you've listened to the podcast, we always
yes.
do a beauty and a blemish. So I want to know if you have a beauty or a blemish that you want to share.
Yes, I was actually thinking about this, and I felt like the beauty, I should say something about my kids because the most beautiful parts of my life. But I was like, I don't know if they did anything that remarkable this week. So I'm going to talk about myself. So the beauty that I would share. So at the past, whatever years, as you age, you get into your latter 30s and early 40s, the muscle tone starts going, you start exercising, and it's really, really hard to like put back muscle. And we all know that's like an indicator of just longevity and doing well. So I've tried lots of different things and it like wasn't working. But finally, I think you just have to strength train, which is something I never really did before. But so I started doing that, did one of those like biometric tests this week, and like and a little bit of muscle gain. I was like, yes,
Oh,
finally
good. It's nice to see
things are
positive
happening.
results.
So I'd say that it is, right? I like these, and that's another thing why I like health tech so much. I think you need these metrics. You sort of need to have some subjective way or objective ways like of looking at things and knowing you're getting improvement. The blemish, I would say, hopefully you can't see it, but I completely mistimed a chemical peel that I put on Friday. This is like a very dermatology specific problem. And I don't know if you can see my entire face
No, I
is
can't see
slightly
at
peeling
all.
off
You
right
look like
now.
you're very shiny.
Okay, good, good. But it does look shiny, right?
Well,
It
I
works.
just did microneedling with exosomes and I loved it. Yeah, it was
Oh,
the
fantastic.
first time and I healed so much faster.
It works, right? Yeah, yeah. We do a lot of microneedling in our office, a little bit with PRP, but we really haven't started the exosome world, which is
It's
something I think we need to
Yeah,
embark
it's a
on soon.
hot trending topic. We'll see how
Yeah,
much younger we all get with exosomes in the future. So guys, this is what
yeah.
dermatologists do. As soon as we get together, we're like, "What'd you do? I just did
This is,
this.
yeah.
No, you did this."
What did you do?
We take notes, we share, because that's how it goes. Okay, well, let's get into it. I'm so excited about DermGPT. So tell us what moved you to create this AI platform?
Yeah, so actually, a lot of what you said really reflected with me about we need to be in these spaces where we aren't being represented. One of them has always been for me health tech, because the health tech devices or technology is usually made by really like well-meaning engineers, but they just don't know our world. So a lot of the tech that's been handed down in medicine, and you've probably heard it from other physicians, even things like the EMRs or all sorts of different tech don't work super well for the physician. They're not helping their day along. They're basically like impeding them. So one of the things I've always wanted to do is have it just be physician first. I think technology or devices, skincare, all of these things, they should be physician first. Even if it's not ideally it's a physician founder, but even if not, they should like be in the rooms initially where things are happening and plans are being made, because we know the pain points and we know the different markers that we need to get to. But that's basically the way I've always approached health tech, is starting from the problem in clinic and then working backwards and creating the tech to solve that problem versus like the other way. During GPT, so it's a AI generated large language model. Basically, large language models are if you're just teaching a machine to do what you can do. And the difference between GPT, why it's become so hot versus all the machine learning we've had before, in the past, machine learning took a lot of time and money. Like if you were to teach one task to the computer, it could take millions of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars, and like a lot of time, and then it would be able to do that one thing. So similar to like maybe a child learning how to speak, if you taught them one word at a time, it would take forever. Versus now, with like the human brain, the child can infer different things and pick up so much and teach itself basically, which is why like a 2-year-old can have like a mini conversation with you. So with the
Right.
GPT technology, it just opened that world up for machine learning. So it's generative, meaning it's teaching itself and getting smarter. It's able to do things faster for less cost, which is amazing because it's basically kind of democratizing that space. So if you have the idea, you're no longer have to go raise, bazillions of dollars to kind of prove that one point. You have the technology to enable all sorts of kind of innovation. But DermGPT specifically, I can go on for AI for hours. That's probably boring. But DermGPT specifically, AI is only as good still as the data you put into it. So ChatGPT has been like really cool, but it's still very general. They basically for GPT-3, the first versions, they just took a quarter of the internet and just threw it at a GPT and said, learn from this and we'll see what comes out. And what came out actually was like
Mm.
pretty intelligent sounding. Then for GPT-4, and then now they go GPT-5, they just put more and more information in there that it learned from. But you're still only going to get your output as good as what went in. So for dermatology, for DermGPT, we've put in only dermatology approved and viewed materials. So it's our peer reviewed articles, it's our text, it's basically the things we have seen in our training, and not even all the articles in dermatology. I still want to look at it and make sure that's actually relevant. Like if we're looking up PubMed, if we're looking at a specific article search, these are the articles that like our brains catch and we're like, oh, I want to read that. So it's
Mm.
basically putting in info in there that it can pull from, kind of making a little artificial dermatologist brain, so to speak. So I always kind of equate it to like, yeah,
So do you take, like, the textbook, like, you take Bologna and just
yeah,
feed it to
basically,
the
yep,
GPT,
it's
and you take, like, Hanson's pediatric textbook,
exactly.
all these textbooks that, I read as a
Yeah,
resident years
exactly. It's all the
ago.
text that we have seen, all the data that we know, our peer-reviewed articles, and we're constantly updating those. We have more than like 3,000 peer-reviewed articles in there. They're just constantly changing to the point where at times it's even like much smarter sounding than something even I would come up with because you can't recall that much information at your fingertip at any given time. So,
So what's the difference between DermGPT and
yeah,
ChatGPT? Because sometimes I can put stuff into ChatGPT that's dermatology related,
absolutely.
and it gives me sometimes pretty good responses.
Pretty good. Yeah. Yeah. No, ChatGPT is actually really, really good. And it can do a really good job because it has access to everything as well. The main difference is to kind of go into details, the vector database that you put in. So for ChatGPT, it has this generalized vector base. So anything can be pulled up, meaning it could pick up like someone's blog that they wrote that one time about something that could absolutely not be factual. It's not actually
Mm,
dissimilar to kind of like the social media we were talking about. There's a bunch of stuff out there, but like what's actually real, what's true. So it has that problem. It can pull stuff up for sure, but it's sort of like how credible is what the data that it's pulling. And then from that, sometimes it can hallucinate, meaning so there's two types of error. Sometimes it's just straight up wrong, and that's pretty clear. Like you're like, what's one plus one? And it says like five. You're like, okay, that's wrong. ChatGPT made a mistake. But the second type of error, it can hallucinate. So it can make up something that sounds pretty good. And you're like, oh, is that right? Like that sounds pretty right. And that's like the worst error because your brain can't even almost pick it up that it made a mistake. So
mm,
ChatGPT in general, because it's so general, it's very smart, but because it's so general, you don't know the credibility of what it's pulling from, and you don't know if it's kind of making up the answer to kind of sound good. The difference is for a closed vector like DermGPT, it's only kind of pulling mostly from the info that we have put in. So you
I
know the
see.
source, you know where it's coming from. If you ask a question about, let's say, like a hyaluronic acid or whatever it is, and you want to know cross linking, and it pulls up some information, it'll also show you the citation, the source it pulled up from. So you can, if you're really using it for like a super important thing, or let's say a research article, you need it to be super factual, or something you're making a decision on in clinic that affects a patient. You want to just double check that it's actually true.
I
Or
see.
you're looking at, what labs was I supposed to check again for a JAK inhibitor, for example? Like you want this to be pretty factual and then have that citation. So long story short, it's just a little bit more focused and hallucinates less because it's only kind of pulling from true vector data.
We have the most amazing podcast community, and we want to thank you for being such a loyal listener. To thank you for being a fan of the show, we want to extend a 15% offer exclusively to podcast listeners. Just use code SPRING15, that's SPRING15, through March 31st, 2024 at checkout. This is a special discount code we're only giving to our podcast listeners. Don't forget to tag me in your skincare selfies. I love to see you glow. So tell us, like, if you were in clinic and you
Yeah.
wanted to, use Derm GPT, what are some common tasks that it could help assist with in a dermatology practice type of setting?
Yeah, absolutely. So the use cases are pretty much endless. It's almost like having a colleague next to you and you're kind of like wondering something and you ask them. So you can recall anything, put in a question that you're just not sure, you want to look something up. You can have it generate documents. Let's see, like you have medication got denied and you want to write a letter to the insurance company. Usually those tasks might be ones you like add to the end of the day kind of tasks, and the end of the day tasks grow and grow and grow. And by the time you're done with clinic, you're like, okay, I have a bunch of stuff left to do. This, you just want to kind of get stuff off your table. So it's like, okay, generate the denial letter, hand it off to your office staff, they mail it out. So recall, denial letters, billing questions, it's kind of endless what you can kind of use it for. A lot of the med students, residents have used it for scientific writing as well. That's another kind of cool place for it. We also, on the back end, we're developing these bots that basically are for different reasons. Like also, like an example, one could be one of our bots that's going to be asking like a cosmetic consultation, for example. So again, a little avatar pops up. We should actually make the avatar look like you. I feel like that would be fabulous, being a Dr. Ozzy avatar. So like an avatar would kind of pop up.
That's sweet.
That would be really fun. And then so it would ask you questions basically based on the kind of cosmetic consultations it would ask, only the answers it would give are more factual. So the patient's kind of asking about a certain product, things like that. So it can be used in many
I
different
see.
ways.
Is there anything right now technology-wise that you can like submit a picture for, let's say like perioral dermatitis, right? Because it's got a certain look to it. Like submit a picture for that, and then that AI tool like diagnoses it, throws out a treatment plan for somebody, let's say, who is not like let's say a mid-level provider who's new to dermatology. Does anything like that exist? Is this something you see
Yeah.
DermGPT becoming involved with?
Yeah, so those platforms do exist. I have to say visual AI is a whole different ballgame in difficulty. Attempts are definitely being
Mm,
made at it. DermGPT, we've dabbled in it a little bit, but we're sort of like, this is. I think part of it is also because we're physicians. We want things to be good. Whereas I do feel non-physicians are okay putting out products that are like, oh, it's good enough type of thing. So that the visual piece is very difficult. It's becoming better and better, though, even with the GPT technology. The other day, I put in a couple of, just for fun, I'm not a dermatopathologist who reads biopsies, but just for fun, I put in a couple of slides. Because I mean, there's no way it's going to pick this up. It's just like a random slide, like a pink looking, type of thing. And it did. It was like, this is a skin biopsy. It's likely a tumor. It was a basal cell skin cancer, but it was like, it's likely a tumor. I can't tell you which one. That's pretty good for a computer to pick up that level of, because it could be
yeah,
like, I
that
don't
is.
know, it's
Yeah.
like that's nail polish on a piece of glass. It could, for it to
Yeah.
kind of pick up that level of detail. But they're out there for diagnosis of skin conditions. It's still really hard because you have to pick up mild redness from background skin. So it's actually a little bit difficult still, versus obvious things.
Yeah, have to feed it so many images of different
Yeah.
skin colors, different skin types, and different variations of, that condition that it would make sense that it would, be a little bit more complicated. So tell us a little bit about the pros. What are the drawbacks of DermGPT? Just a little bit more detail into.
Yeah, yeah. So I do think one of the main cons of technology in medicine is always technology is a little slow to be uptaken by like our colleagues and medicine. Even like the example I gave of our docs that are still on paper charts, for example. And those are, it's not that they're not efficient practices. A lot of times they're actually amazing practices that are doing really, really well. They've just chosen that because it's kind of faster. And those docs usually all have iPhones. They're not on like those 80s giant like flip
Yes,
phones or
yes.
anything. So they like technology, but technology just hasn't served them well in the medical space. So I think one of the cons is medicine has a little bit of that reputation of like just being hesitant to take up technology because they've usually found that it's slowed them down versus help. AI, I think, is the difference that it's sort of the other way where it speeds things along so much. Like sometimes people ask, is AI going to take over? Basically, is it going to take over people's jobs? And it definitely won't take anyone's jobs, but people who use AI will probably take over jobs of people who aren't using AI because they'll just be so much more efficient, so much faster. In our clinic space, even our MAs using it for prior authorizations. Those are, getting medications approved, things like that. They're just doing them at such a
Right.
faster
It's
rate
these mundane
that
taxes.
it's
Yeah.
speeding up clinical efficiency Exactly. Yeah, it's all those mundane things in clinic. And I don't know if patients necessarily realize the reason physicians just don't have as much time to sit there, because that's what physicians want to do. They want to sit there with their patients. That's the thing we
Mhm.
enjoy the most. But the reason they're like running around, like, with like the just like frantically around clinic is because they have all this other stuff they have to get to. So if you don't kind of take on this technology to help us with all those other tasks, I think it's just going to get worse and worse in the sense that more tasks are kind of adding consistently, more rules, more insurance rules, this and that, and kind of different practices. So
So do you, see this as becoming
yeah.
part of a larger platform like ModMed or EasyDerm, some of these EMRs that are more dermatology specific?
I think, yeah, I think overall it's very derm specific. And we actually haven't asked by others before, could this be applied to other specialties within medicine? And my answer to that is always that the data that goes in has to be super high quality and vetted by that field. So for this, I think it is really derm specific. So integrating even with EMRs, it does make sense to kind of stay within the dermatology world because I think it's the knowledge it has the best. It can kind of answer peripheral questions too, because so much of our dermatology texts still have information about other medical conditions, but really its core is really dermatology. So it's a good addition to any of the other technology tools that are out
N
there.
Now, how long have you been working on this project, and is it available right now? Like, if
Yeah,
I wanted to sign
it
up
is. Yeah,
for it,
yeah, absolutely. So yeah, it's just www.dermgpt.com, and it's more geared towards the board certified dermatologist currently.
do you select like, do you only allow dermatologists to join? Can patients join?
No,
And
actually, patients can absolutely join. The information we're putting in is definitely a little bit more geared towards the board certified dermatologist
I
because they're more
see.
kind of peer reviewed articles, things like that. But we do have a couple of actually pieces coming out that are going to be more patient facing, more with those kind of those shared medical decision making bots, and that'll kind of help with some clinical research and different tools.
And so how long have you been working on this project? Because it sounds like,
So
it's
this actually, I would say we started Psoriasis telehealth back in maybe 2019 or 2020. Through that, we developed a lot of kind of AI protocols around psoriasis. So, but very slow and very narrow because back then the technology didn't quite exist. Then through that, we had a lot of the background work kind of established of how you would develop an AI model around dermatology. And when the GPT technology came out, that was like, lighting it on fire.
Yeah, yeah, nice.
So DermGPT itself, actually, we launched at the SF Derm event over the summer. We officially did the launch where everybody could sign up for it. I think we launched in August.
Okay,
We have over like 2,000 derms on it now, so it's been kind
awesome.
of a quick uptake, which is really fun.
Well, I'm excited to sign
Yeah,
up. Now, getting back to a little bit about psoriasis, because that's something that you've done some research on.
yeah.
So I read that you have a psoriasis telehealth platform. Am I understanding that?
Yeah, yeah. So it's psoriasis and eczema, and those are the
Okay.
two conditions that are really prevalent, but really hard to get into dermatologists when you're having
Yes.
the flare.
Very true. Mhm. Mhm.
Basically, because we all kind of have wait times. And then another piece we've always heard over the years is a little bit tougher for some patients to find a dermatologist who will prescribe the biologics or
Mhm.
get immunomodulators. So that's kind of the niche it fills is basically
Okay.
quicker access and to docs who know
So is it
psoriasis really well.
is it a photo like platform or is it a
And yep,
video? How does it work?
yeah, so initially it's asynchronous, so photo and signing up. But then if we are going to give like a biologic medication, that actually does need like a video visit for sure,
I
just to get
see.
more information and
And it's
yep.
you can be anywhere in the country and sign up for
We're
this
in
or
24 states actually. It's almost
24
anywhere in
states?
the
I see. Yeah, because those are really
yeah,
tough conditions, and people can't always find dermatologists that practice medical derm still, or they
yeah.
have, like you said, really long wait times. And is this something that is like a cash pay, or is it like
Yeah,
insurance based,
it
or how does it
is,
work?
it is. It's cash pay with those like a super bill at the end that you can submit to your insurance, and that has to somehow do with somewhat do with the difficulty of just trying to figure out how to offer insurance coverage across state lines. The healthcare system is very complicated, the way
Yeah, it's
the
very
way
complicated. Oh
it's
my
built up.
goodness.
So
It is. Well, before we let you go today, I have a favorite game I was hoping we would play. It's called Slay or Nay. Slay being you love it, and nay saying, nope, not for me. Okay, number one, only using TikTok for skincare advice.
yeah, so I would say nay to the only part, but I would say slay to board certified dermatologists being on TikTok, and just taking their own personal time to educate people. That's amazing.
So you are a psoriasis fellow. Tell us, visiting a tanning bed for psoriasis treatment.
Yeah, nay, hard no on that one. For psoriasis, we sometimes use phototherapy or light therapy in the office, but we use mostly narrowband UVB, which is a 308 to 312 nanometer wavelength, very specific to the anti inflammatory parts of psoriasis without the cancer causing carcinogenic rays. Also, the lamps in our medical devices are built at a very kind of safe distance. So they're meant to be there to not burn your skin versus the tanning bed. You're laying down on these just UVA lamps, just burning your skin. UVA will age your skin, but it also is a direct carcinogen. Like it's one of our things, it's literally categorized as a carcinogen, meaning it will cause cancer. So, no, a
Yes.
hard no on that
Yeah.
one.
Definitely not, definitely not. Now, did you ever do Geckerman? I trained at Mayo Clinic, and we had a full-on in-service unit where we would do, you know, tar with UV, and so you guys offer that, huh?
We used to do
Or no?
Geckerman, yeah,
You used
at
to. Before
UCSF,
the
we used to do
biologics.
before the biologics, at UCSF, we used to do Geckerman, and what it was just you paste yourself with this coal tar and then go into the light box after, and it worked really, really well, and coal tar is kinda making a comeback, so coal tar,
Mm,
our thought is it works on this, aryl hydrocarbon receptor, and they're becoming really hot again in anti-aging, longevity, psoriasis topical creams blocks that. So coal tar was like old school. We laughed at it, but its mechanism is coming back. It's actually one of the hot topics that biotech companies are studying. So tar was cool the whole time,
really?
but it smells really bad.
It's like the '80s coming back, the
It's
'80s
coming back.
fashion's coming back, it's the same concept. No, I have another question, rapamycin,
Yeah.
sirolimus, Prograf.
Yeah.
Have you heard of that for longevity?
Yep, yep. There is a lot of research going on in, and especially I do kind of cosmetic and aesthetics here, but that looks very different in Silicon Valley than it does in the rest of the country. So we do a lot of longevity work here.
Longevity.
We do, yeah, and I prescribe a lot of metformin in my clinic. I
Mm,
think we have enough data now that it is doing something, and the early trials are kind of showing that for anti-aging. We know metformin works well for patients that have diabetes and other comorbidities, but the question was, will it actually do anything for just the regular population? And then for a while, anybody with even a slightly increased glucose level, I was putting on metformin. Now I'm like, okay, we could put everyone else on there. But the mTOR
metformin
inhibitors
for
that you mentioned,
everyone.
metformin for everybody. And the mTOR inhibitors you mentioned are huge targets. So there's a lot of research going on around that. So I like to say the Krebs cycle is now sexier than like Kylie Jenner in a way. But although Kylie Jenner is still very hot,
At
but
least in Silicon Valley.
in Silicon Valley, the Krebs cycle is coming back, which is like a really
So
nerdy mechanism.
we are totally digressing on this Slayer name, but so I have to ask you if you could put together a very sexy anti-aging cocktail, you know, what would be in there? Would metformin make it? Would
Metformin would
growth
make
hormone be in
it.
there?
Yeah, a little bit of metformin, maybe a little bit of like resveratrol, oral resveratrol. These injectables, people are really into them, like the NAD, NADPH, like those, maybe a little bit of those in there. And then just just bathe yourself in PRP. That's the other piece. Externally.
PRP or exosomes.
Or
If
exosomes.
you
We need
don't
to get
wanna
into
if you
that.
don't wanna if you don't wanna donate blood or,
Yeah.
give up your blood. Okay, moving on. That was really fun. We'll have to do a whole other episode on, biotech and, longevity. So tea tree oil for psoriasis treatment.
It's not terrible. I used to say total nay, but some people do like it, but it could give you a contact allergen. So I won't say
Yeah.
100% nay, but still leaning towards nay.
All right. Well, this was so fun. Thank you so much for taking the
Thank
time
you.
to speak with me. I learned a lot. I'm going to go sign up for DermGPT, and I look
Fantastic.
forward to seeing you develop it. I'm
Thank
so
you so
inspired
much.
and
This is so
so
fun.
proud of having a
All
colleague like just moving and shaking all these trends and innovative um, technology in this space.
fantastic. Thank you so much for having me on. It was so much fun.
Yes. All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Bye.